All right, hello everyone. Chad Weninger here with I Love Kelowna Real Estate. I'm really excited actually about my guest today. You might recognize this guy, Ryan Donn. He is the one of the city councilors with the city of Kelowna. How are you doing today?
It's good. Nice early interview. It's good. Actually, it wasn't that early. I've had a 6 a.m. one before.
Oh,
9 a.m.'s not that bad.
I could have come here at 6 if you wanted.
Yeah, right. No, I gotta get my kids to school like everybody else does.
Yeah, I was lucky. My wife actually was the one who took the kids to school today, so I had extra time this morning. So
it is a horse trade thing. Like, when are you taking the kids to school? When are you going off to work?
Very much so. Today we obviously, part of Ryan being here, I was actually following a Facebook post, and there was a lot of talk,
Debate on Facebook?
Debate on Facebook.
What do you say?
Yeah. There's a lot of
You
confusion
can go on any
around,
topic here.
Yeah, totally. There's a lot of confusion around property taxes in the city of Kelowna. Obviously the assessments came out. A lot of them went up, no surprise. So today we have a pretty awesome topic. We're going to talk about property taxes and how the assessments will correlate with the city's budget and the property taxes. And my assessment went up by 20%. Does that mean my taxes are going up by 20%? So very timely. So that's why we kind of got Ryan here today. So, but first, obviously we want to get to know you a little bit better so that people understand who you are, where you come from, a little bit of your background. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself, how you got into being a councillor, where you came from? I know you weren't born in Kelowna.
That's true, yes. I moved out here from Scotland when I was about 13 years old, 1990, and then learned that nobody understood a word for what I said. So I learned to speak Canadian, and then I became Canadian. I don't know if it's tied together. And lived here since 91. So just went to like 5-6 years of high school here. Loved doing music, so I performed quite a bit in town. Did lots of performing, I think I performed at every charity event that was possible for a couple of years in town, kind of thing. Silk FM was nice enough to play my song back in the day.
Well, that's nice.
And yeah, it changed to Easy Rock, and so I had a couple songs on the radio and stuff. And just
so I'm going to throw you on the spot here because I don't think you actually know this.
No.
But we talked earlier about you actually taught at a school with my wife.
Yeah.
She loved your music. She actually asked you to perform at our wedding, and you turned us down.
Oh. Was it just too expensive?
I don't know, maybe.
There's a limit to when you play every charity event.
I get it.
Sorry about that.
You gave us some great recommendations though, so that turns out.
Yeah, no, it's been an interesting switch. I've kind of done a few different switches completely in my career. So one was a musician. And probably at that time I was switching in to be the event producer. So what happened was I changed from being the musician guy
2010
on the stage. And it was like complete transition into working at Festivals Kelowna. And I started the Music in the Park program with in West Kelowna. Talked to Doug Finletter. And just over a wine in Kelowna, we were at a networking event, and I think that's kind of what twigged the concept of what the role politics could play.
Right.
Because I talked to him about an idea, and he said, you know what, go right ahead and talk to this lady named Annette Boudreau, who she passed away last year, unfortunately, but she had the new amphitheater named after her. Because of her work in West Kelowna, so it's the Annette Boudreau Amphitheater. So I sat in her office and she said, yes, we should do this. So seeing that influence, taking politics and turning it into an idea to reality, I think started getting me interested in it. And then switched from being an event producer and I think there was a chance for more people understood the value of an animated, vibrant city at the council table. And I think when I saw it was running, I'm like, you know what? I want to ensure that my community is represented. I looked around, I'm like, well, nobody's been foolish enough to do music as publicly for their whole life. So it's like, because you do need a bit of name recognition in order to get into council. So you go, I could probably think of 3 of my friends or 3 of my network that could run. None of them were interested in running. So it was kind of, and then when you see Colin's going to go for the mayor's chair, it's like, hey, that's great. He was actually my voice on council. So, and then my fear was, well, what if he doesn't get into the mayor? Then my voice in council's gone. So so that's kind of just that motivation to have that family voice represented on council. Would be the motivator to run, and I actually got in. So I'm like, I keep telling people, like, you've no idea how much I still feel like that was quite not a fluke, but like, you work hard, but a lot of people ran and didn't get in, and so it's a crazy opportunity, a humbling opportunity. You're surrounded by experts, which is the only reason I'm able to answer your questions today, is because I've had experts in various fields talk to us every week for 8 hours to tell people it's the best course you'll ever get in life if you get to be a counselor. You learn about so many different things. I mean, I'm a musician, I'm an event producer, talking about taxes today.
Well, and I'll be honest, I reached out to Colin as well, actually, because he is a buddy of mine, and I said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, and he was actually going to get me in touch with the finance guy. And I'm just like, I want to talk to a finance guy. Nothing against him. I'm sure he's great, but when you try to do an interview and have it more exciting and kind of, it's like, do you want to talk to a finance guy who crunches numbers all day long, or more the musician, counsel, outgoing guy?
Well, before I suggested you, I met with that finance guy to go, okay, here's my understanding of it. Is it right?
So there you go.
So I think we're on the same page. So I guess it came from people's values started to go up.
Yeah.
And I think it was this debate of, if my value goes up by this much, does it go up by that much?
Right.
And I guess, if you don't mind if I jump in, I would probably step back and go, we're kind of trained based on PST and GST.
Yeah.
That when we pay for something, the amount of tax we pay is proportionate to the value of that item.
Right.
So we're really trained, and the province doesn't know exactly how much is coming in every year from PST.
No.
The federal government doesn't know exactly what's coming in from GST.
No.
But as a municipality, we can't operate that way.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, we operate completely in reverse.
Mm-hmm.
And if you pause there for a second and go, it's not about the value of the property, it's actually about our budget.
Right.
And so it's the reverse of how other taxes work, and I think that's why this becomes such a tough issue to explain, because everywhere else, if your income goes up, your taxes go up.
Totally.
If your things cost you more, like you buy the new MacBook Pro, it's gonna cost you more you pay this much more PST. Municipal taxes don't work like that, they work in the opposite.
Right. So you always got your budget you got to hit, and that's kind of...
Yeah, and so I can jump into that if you want. So basically, essentially, the taxes that you pay are based on the budget of the city of Kelowna.
Right.
And so, yeah, do you want me to jump into it?
Yeah.
Okay,
For
so...
sure, let's get this going.
So I kind of was imagine there's a perfectly...
This is the Ask the Expert section now.
Yeah, this is the moment where I go, okay, here if I can see if the time the citizens have invested in me sitting around a very exciting table every week.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so imagine you have the perfect statistic town that has 3 houses in it, and then they're all valued at $100,000.
Yep.
And they all go up 50% that year. Now in people's minds they go, man, my house went up 50%. My taxes must be going up like crazy. But you have to pause and go, no, it's not connected to the increase in your value only. There is a connection there. You have to go, well, how much is the city spending this year? Because it's actually connected to, so then you go to the city goes, oh, we got $1 million budget. So they've got $1 million budget spread amongst them. They're fortunate 3 houses.
Yeah. Sorry.
so basically last year they all spent $333,000 on taxes. How lucky are those 3 houses?
Yeah.
So if everybody jumps 50%, and the budget of that city stays the same, there's actually no increase to the taxes that people pay.
Right.
So if there's no increase in service, or there's no increase of the city of Kelowna budget, and everybody's property in the city of Kelowna stayed the same, or even jumped 50%, or 75%, or 200%, and we didn't change the budget that we're spending, then there's no increase in your actual tax you're paying to the municipality.
Right.
Now, so then you go, yeah, but that's not how it works. Totally. So we put through a 3.9%, essentially 4% tax increase this last budget.
Right.
So then, if every house in Kelowna went up the same amount, let's say they all doubled. Let's say they all doubled in Kelowna. If they all doubled, they're not doubling their taxes they're paying. They're only going to go, if everybody's the same, then you're only going up 4%.
Right.
And you can say, Ryan, you shouldn't use the word only in front of the word 4%, which is a valid complaint, and, so, and I think I'll eat that word later.
Yeah, probably.
So only is not a word. So basically, but it's not
that's
based
hashtag
on...
Ryan Donn.
Ryan Donn failed. So, yeah, it's not based on your property value increase, it's based on what the city is spending.
Okay.
So, then we go to the scenario to, I think you had talked about a couple examples where you go, so imagine you've got 3 cities now, or 3 towns.
So basically what we've done is we've gone on to, so the city of Kelowna has this awesome resource now. If you haven't checked out their new website, they just revamped the whole entire thing. It's actually very awesome, very user-friendly. I use it all the time in my mortgage business. But they have a property tax estimator.
Yep.
So, for example, I got 3 different estimates here based on a $200,000 price point, a $300,000 price point, and a $400,000 price point. So in these scenarios, and this is where it's a little bit confusing, because so we take the $200,000 price point. You got a property in 2016 that went from $180,000 to $200,000. That's an 11% increase in the value. The taxes only went up by 2.8%.
Which is less than the actual average increase, right?
Exactly, yeah. So you're talking about a 4%, 3.9% increase. That's actually less than what the
even though
budget.
the property went up.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So the other one, and you're gonna have to explain this one, is 420,000 to 480,000. So it's a 14.29% increase in the actual value based on BC assessment. The taxes went up by 5.78%.
Yeah.
And then the third one we did, which is kind of where my the alarm bells went off in my head, is obviously 2016. There's a $340,000 value, goes up to 360 in 2017. That's a 5.88% increase in value, but the taxes went down by 2%.
Which is shocking, right?
It's kind of like, so now everyone out there, if you're listening, go buy a $300,000 house.
Right. So what I'd say is, it's a relative tax.
Right.
So you have that perfect statistic bill, right? That's got the 3 houses that all went up and the tax would all stay the same. So people know that Kelowna doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
We have house A, B, and C. So let's say house A. So first of all, you have to decide. Let's say the whole community jumped 50% on average. Let's say the average community jumped. But let's take 3 example houses, and let's go one that went up 0% in value, one that went up 50%, just the average, and one that doubled. Maybe they're at the lake.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe they doubled in value. So the city goes and takes the assessment of the whole community,
Right.
and then divides it.
So when you're talking about assessment of the community, are they talking about Kelowna as a whole, or are they like now segmenting it to like, here's the upper mission, the lower mission, here's Rutland, here's Glenmore?
So BC assessment does that, and it's a provincial body.
Yep.
They assess the value. So there's a disconnect between who's assessing the value for the municipal taxes you pay. So it's actually regulated by the province. And so if you have, so there's a chance that if, so in that perfect example we had before of $1 million budget for the city of Kelowna.
Yep.
And let's say it didn't go up, but there was a change in the valuation where one person stayed at 0, one person went up by half, and one person doubled. That person that was at half would see their taxes stay exactly the same.
Yeah.
The person that doubled the value would probably see, and imagine there were only 3 houses in this community, they would probably see a 25% increase on their taxes they paid.
Yeah.
Whereas the guy with 0 would probably see a 25% decrease in their taxes, because the average is in the middle and these guys are halfway in between.
Right.
So there's a chance if your property, so people say, oh, my property value went up. Well, you should be concerned if compared to the community, your property value went up. So my property value went up, I think it was like 8% this year.
Yeah.
Now I think the average was much higher. You understand? Let's say it was 20. So I actually think that my taxes for my house, and I haven't looked at it yet, were probably slightly less than it was last year.
Yeah.
But if somebody's got a house in the lake and their property value went up 40% this year in Kelowna, they're going to be there. So I think that's where you get to, long-winded answer.
Yeah.
But when you get to your example, there's a potential that even though your house goes up in value, if it didn't go up as much as a different category, then guess what? You actually might be paying less taxes.
Yeah. And keep in mind that this property tax is an estimator, it's not accurate, so this is just, let me rephrase, it's estimator.
Yeah.
So it's not what you're paying, it's what you might possibly, it's around the ballpark.
And this is for residential, I'm assuming you're
This is only residential, yeah.
Because I mean, it gets more complicated, so that's actually the simple version, where you've got the perfect bill, where if you've got your same valuations, everybody rises 50%, there's no increase. The city budget, which is the only thing you should really focus on, for the main nugget, nobody's paying more taxes.
Right.
Switch it and you go, okay, now it's not Fairville, it's Unfairville, where you've got some guys going up double, 50% 0. The budget's still spread amongst the value and then divided.
Right.
So there is a chance you're gonna, so I say, people are like, should I reassess my value of my home? Well, if you feel it's not correct, yes, it's probably the simplest answer. If it's correct, then everybody else kind of got caught in the same thing. So, but if yours goes up 80% and you only feel it should have went up 40%, well, hey, that's the moment to go. But if the whole town went up 80%, well.
Yeah, and there's a great tool too, because obviously, like you said, these assessments are based on the provincial government, not the municipal government. So this is coming right from BC Assessment Authority, and they have an awesome website. If you go to bcassessment.ca, there's this thing called eValue. So you can actually plug in your address. It'll tell you exactly what your assessments are, but then if you scroll down to the bottom, there's actually
snoop
a map.
on your neighbors.
You can snoop on your neighbors. It's awesome.
You know exactly what their house is worth,
Yeah.
and exactly when their property last sold and how much.
Yeah.
So you get to actually see.
It only tells you if it sold 3 years ago. So if they sold 4 years ago, it won't show up. But if it's within the last 3 years, it'll tell you what they sold for.
I totally did that already. I was like punched in my house, and I was like, and there was one property that went up tremendously.
Yeah.
And so I think that person should probably.
Yeah.
Relative to everything else, it's like, well, why shouldn't my property go? So I think the connection is your property tax that you're paying is mostly connected to the city's budget.
Right.
But it has an impact on, your assessment does have an impact on that, but mostly it's on the city budget, does it go up or down?
Right. Cool. So, should I even ask about commercial, or?
Sure, yeah, because,
Do you,
well, yeah, so what, I mean,
we got a few minutes, so.
sure, yeah, sure.
So now if we jump into the commercial side of it, when you're talking about the commercial and taxes and all that with the commercial side, how does that, because obviously that's probably, in a nerdy sense, a different algorithm. You're pulling out your charts.
I'm pulling charts, I'm
you're
like,
prepared, you're good to go.
I was like, no, you said property tax, like, man, I have to go to school to get ready for this one. So essentially, there's different property class tax rates.
Yeah.
So, and the one that's always focused on is, it's the business tax rate.
Right.
So essentially, in Kelowna, I was looking up CFIB, we actually get a pretty good score from the Canadian Federation of Business, because what we have is a relatively low, and what they say is the relation between how much a business is paying to how much a residential is paying. So in 2015, when this article, and this is the lobbyist article, so they're comparing us there. So they're basically saying 2.13 was Kelowna in 2015, which looks to be I did the math, it's pretty accurate to what it is now.
Yeah.
So basically, if you're a business owner, you're paying 2.13% or 2.13 times more than a residential.
Right.
And then you've got farms, which frankly are spending a lot less.
Yeah.
And then you've got all these other things in between. I was looking up, the last thing you want to be is a utility.
Utility?
Utility seems to spend about, I think it's like 6 times the cost of residential.
Wow.
I think they must think they have money or something.
I don't know.
I don't know what it is. I haven't asked the logic of that, but I'm not complaining about
Is that what it's tied to?
I have no idea, so yeah.
That's how they dig the rich. Don't be a good business owner.
Well, that's why, I mean, the reason why there's a lobby is to go, well, why is there a difference?
Yeah.
And the answer to the question is, I don't have a core answer for that one, so I think I'd be curious to understand the logic of these breakdowns.
Yeah.
The one that's on my mind definitely the most is the farm one, because the farm, if we have farms that are used well and intensively, then that's the whole point.
Yeah.
But if you're only using your farm to the minimum required,
Yeah.
then I think you gotta discuss, is that really the benefit to agriculture? So we've got a new agricultural plan in the city of Kelowna.
Yeah.
And the discussion is, how do we help encourage intensive agriculture use versus just light? So that's a whole other topic for the agricultural plan. You could have.
Don't just smack a few chickens in your backyard and make your $2,500 and call it a day.
Right. Well, my parents have chickens in their backyard. Yeah, so I'm like,
My in-laws had chickens too.
Yeah, I'm like, they
had.
Right. Yeah, that's
The
so you went far
the coyotes had a heyday.
Yeah. So I think that's the main thing, is just to understand that you were trained to understand that when a valuation happens, the taxman takes his money on that valuation.
Right, yeah.
But that's in PSD, GST, income. It's not how municipal taxes work.
Right.
There's a different way to work it. And it's the reason why the Facebook comments were going,
Yeah.
no, it went up, so it went up.
Yeah, and I think that's a common misconception, because like you said, I mean, I know the provincial government obviously tried to implement HST, which is just kind of a blanket tax, that we all know what happened to that.
Yeah.
That went away, so it makes a lot of sense that it would be operated a different way, because I mean, you guys have a budget that you gotta hit, and you know what with all the planning and all that, you know where you need to spend and how you need to spend it.
Yeah.
So you kind of need to prepare for that.
One of the things you see on the, taxes are collected, and you probably better to talk to a school trustee, but, schools aren't allowed to go into deficit.
Yeah.
So there's a reason why it can't work in we'll see what we get from the income from taxes.
Yeah.
It has to work based on the budget, what is actually being spent, because they can't go into a deficit. That's the
I mean, if you actually look at, if you look at the actual estimate they give you, it obviously breaks it down to all the different tax levies. So obviously the annual taxes, and I'm looking at the example of $420,000 to $480,000. The annual taxes for a property like that are $2,868, but it breaks it down to what the school needs, what the municipality needs, the library, the regional district, and it actually has the breakdown from what last year would be to what your new this year would be. So I mean, when you see you think about it, like $7 extra a year just goes to the hospital. Well, I mean, we all know at our hospital, it's short on beds. It's kind of always needing more and more.
But there's an interesting fact that we actually really kicked butt. Like in Kelowna, we contributed, I think it was $100 million to the renovation of, I think, the 3rd floor at KGH through this, and people aren't aware that that's their municipal taxes essentially. Yeah. That there's a hospital board and we're substantially committing to raising, and now it's like for example, my sister recently had a premature baby that typically would have had to go to Vancouver. Yep. Based on all the investments that the taxpayers have helped do, not just the province, because provincial healthcare, it's a provincial thing. We've actually got much higher level of service than we've ever had in
Yeah.
Kelowna. So it might be full and yeah, it might be parking issues, but it's because we've got such a high level of
Yeah.
service. And when
Yeah.
you see a complaint in the media going, somebody from Cranbrook's complaining about how full Kelowna is, it's because we're the
Yeah.
regional hospital.
All those people that would have went to Vancouver are now staying local.
We have the option to come here.
Yeah, which is awesome. I mean, you don't want to go to Vancouver.
Right.
I mean, I had a cousin who had premature babies, and she spent I don't know how many months and wasted how many thousands of dollars in Vancouver.
Right.
Because as soon as, I mean, even in that scenario where you're having a premature baby, you got to go to Vancouver. The hospital's only letting you stay there until you as the mom is better. Then you got to go find
Yeah.
living somewhere else outside the hospital. They have like things to help, but I mean, it still doesn't replace your home that you're already paying for. So
Yeah, so I think that's one of the surprising things I think your taxes are going to.
Yeah.
And of course you have different folks at KGH Foundation also doing fundraising as
Yeah.
well, but just, yeah, it's quite dynamic to where, you know, the regional district's on there, the library's on there, so it just, there's a lot of complexity, but quite simply, your value isn't the only determining factor
Right.
for how much tax you're paying.
So, I mean, I might be shooting from the hip here, and you might need to do some research on this, but you sound like a smart guy. So when
And I
people
I succeeded if I sound like a smart guy.
people see their taxes, so again, in this scenario, it's $2,800, but as a principal residence, as it being your primary residence, you get the grant, so they take
Yeah.
$770 off every year
Yeah.
on your taxes, so your $2,800 essentially goes down to $21.
Yeah.
How does the city implement that into the budget? Because obviously, they don't really know when people buy a house, like if it's going to be a principal until someone actually claims a homeowner grant, which you have to do every single year.
Yeah, I don't know.
Alright, well,
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry, look at that.
he'll make a comment on the Facebook page.
Smart enough to say I don't know. That's what it.
Yeah, that would pose a lot of questions on, you would probably get.
Yeah, that's a good
emails.
question. So you're saying people would be applying for a grant, but wouldn't the grant be coming from the province?
Well, yeah, because the budget you do based on I'm assuming the budget's based on the gross amount, not the net
Yeah.
amount. So with all these people that are homeowners in town,
Yeah.
they get the grant, so they get $770 off each year, plus there's seniors grants and all that kind of stuff.
So my core question is the
How-
grant coming from the municipality, or is
Yeah.
the grant coming from the province? And I don't know
Right.
the answer. So
Okay.
if it's coming from the province, it would be a grant from the province to the city.
Right, yeah.
Cutting off you. Yeah, so I don't know.
We'll find that out and we'll let you know.
I do know that most people find that they try to get somebody to pay some work.
Yes, they do, definitely.
Yeah.
But, cool. Well, that's a lot of information, fire hose of information. If people want to know more about this kind of stuff, obviously, like I said, you can check out the Kelowna's website. There is a property tax estimator. We will put that link on the show notes on the page. But if anyone has any questions, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so mostly the best way to get a hold of me is on Facebook. I've got my public Facebook page, which you can post questions and stuff. Also, I would say the finance department, City of Kelowna. Essentially, they should be here doing the interview, I think. But I think more than happy to answer it in my understanding of it. But I think my cell phone's available. Pretty much always on my cell phone. It's always available on the internet. 250-878-1254 or email. But I would say Facebook's the best place because I think you got some ideas for the podcast
Well, yeah,
based on
yeah.
comments and questions that people were asking
Yeah.
publicly. It's a good form where I know a lot of people read different things and don't always post. So it's a chance for if you've got a question, somebody else has a question.
Right. And if people need to email you, what's your email address?
Yeah, first initial last name at Kelowna.ca. So RDONN at Kelowna.ca.
Cool. And like I said, all the information, we'll put Ryan's phone number, email, and all the links to the city's website and all that in the show notes. So if you have any other questions, you can reach out to Ryan. You can also reach out to me, and we can get those answers for you as soon as we can.
Look at you guys.
And-
Promises.
And don't worry about your taxes. It didn't go up 20%. For the most part.
It did go up though.
It did go up though, just not that much.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, thanks very much, and yeah, we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.